Yeah, what's up, man? Hope y'all having a blessed one. Back with another. Right here, he caught so many bodies. He was a legit nightmare for his enemies. The story of Infant Nightmare. Let's get into this one right here, man.
Welcome to Hood War Stories. In this episode, I'll be discussing the life of Infant Nightmare. Dante Kennedy was born on December 29th, 1998, in Los Angeles, California. He attended Hillcrest Elementary School. He was raised in the Baldwin Village neighborhood of Los Angeles, infamously known as the Jungles, or the Jays, an urban.
When my little brother came out here to visit the first time, we was driving around LA, listening to these type of stories, riding around the different projects like Grape Street and Prairie Hill. You know what I'm saying? But I'm glad he didn't bring up this one because we was not going. Like these one of the real active ones. Like
Fortress composed of high-density apartments and tropical vegetation. The Jungles are still unsafe today, but in the early 2000s it was on another level. Those were the training day days. Guys 20 deep in red on every block, monitoring every car that goes in and out. For a while, it was a no-go zone, as you would enter at your own risk. Young black kids growing up in this type of setting more than likely get swallowed into the Black P Stones, the gang that has its area on deadlock. This neighborhood is so deep and active that you basically are a member by living there. BPS recruits heavily, but the actual put-on process is not easy and is selective. Nightmare would join BPS in his early teen years. Infant Nightmare made it a point to be a standout member from jump. He was considered a part of the 10% of gang members who are really active in the field. These are the real line pushers, patrolling the neighborhood and banging on people. Nightmare was always known to carry a gun. He primarily focused on the top shooters from rival gangs and prioritized knocking them off. By the time he was 17, he gained high status and rank within BPS. His earned rank was a combination of factors. Nightmare was super solid and very respected, and was very ambitious to get money. He had a good record with the hands and was always down to fight. Alleged bodies and numerous attempts propelled his reputation as one of the top young shooters in South Central. Nightmare was down to kill and do life in prison or die himself in the process. After the rolling 40s and the Harlem 30s, Nightmare hated 18th Street the most. BPS and 18th Street's war goes back decades. In the mid-90s, a few 18th Streeters lived in the Jungles off Ursula Avenue in one apartment. They tried to set up shop and sling drugs on that block. BPS told them it was a no-go. When the Ursula clique continued to sales when things got hectic, after Ursula got pressed, the Rancho clique and some other gunners from other cliques responded with gunfire. BPS responded with full court pressure, shooting up Ursula Ave every day. Shootouts would occur from out the window onto the street and from apartment to apartment in the Jungles. It was so much heat the Ursula clique had to vacate the Jays and stay in the Rancho Park clique's hood. The Rancho Park clique were firing back on Ursula's behalf. Even black kids walking to Dorsey High School were getting shot. Most of the Ursula locals were wound up getting absorbed into the Outset's clique, and that's who's been in the thick of it with BPS, along with the Smiley Drive clique. Nightmare was known for bouncing out, pop out, and shoot you type, but he also had a sneaky side. On one hot night, Nightmare ventured into 18th Street's turf. There he spotted 3 18th Streeters outside on the street talking. Nightmare allegedly got out on foot, crept up from behind, and domed the 18th Streeter. 2 additional shots were fired, but they both missed the other targets. Nightmare gathered himself and fled off into the night. The sneak attack was allegedly one of his first bodies, and the 18th Streeters got a clear view of his face. After that murder, Nightmare briefly shifted his focus to another enemy that was in close proximity, the West Boulevard Crips. Allegedly, there was some back and forth dialogue being exchanged on social media. Threats like "you know what it is when I see you" were being sent. And it didn't take long. Nightmare allegedly spots him near the intersection of Crenshaw and Adams. These cross streets is a point of conflict, as multiple gangs lurk near these borders and often are bound to run into each other. After spotting him, Nightmare allegedly chased his victim down in the streets and completed his mission. There's no one Nightmare hated more than the rolling 40s. In fact, this has been BPS's top enemy for more than a decade, especially among the younger generation. Nightmare labeled himself Mr. 40K, and he earned that title, shooting up the 40s on a weekly basis, from the avenues to Parkside, but especially the dark side were all getting lit up. Nightmare was putting in a ton of work and was becoming a true nightmare in the streets. His name rang bells, and his gunplay put everyone on notice. He was an active shooter and had no intention on slowing down. As Nightmare rose to one of the top doubters in the city, he began to prioritize killing other top shooters from rival hoods. Africa, also known as Tiny J Stone, was an extremely active, high-ranking member from the 89 East Coast Crips. Fast forward to July 29th, 2018 at 12:40 a.m. Africa is hanging out with rolling 40 members near 43rd of Vermont. Nitemare and other BPS members all saw it that night, driving around looking for a 40 Crip to kill. They end up pulling up to 43rd of Vermont and find just what they were looking for: Africa and a few rolling 40 Crip members. That's a 2-for-1 special in Nitemare's eye. Nitemare then jumps out and specifically tries to kill Africa first. He lets off numerous shots, and bullets start flying. But instead of hitting Africa, a 40 Crip named Tiny Hardhead got hit. 2 others were also shot. Hardhead was pronounced dead in the street at 12:50 a.m. Nitemare and another gunman ran to 2 separate vehicles, which fled the scene. Tiny Hardhead was a factor in the 40s, and he was known for shooting and pressing the issue.
Hardhead is set trip.
They gon' phone your mic, bro. I ain't even know no C nigga, bro. Gon' phone your mic, pop.
He on the phone calling his homies.
I pop that y'all niggas. Y'all niggas don't do nothing, nigga. I'm voting for you. I stay shooting y'all niggas. All right.
It's 4 of y'all though, it's only 3 of them.
Which I need a burner, cuz. We don't got no burner. Let's get our head up, cuz.
Originally, when he was killed, there was speculation in the city whether it was the 5 Deuce Hoovers or BPS's work. But as Nitemare got away that night, Africa got a glimpse of his face. Nitemare was wearing a hoodie, and it was dark, but Africa was almost certain it was him. Africa then told the 40s who he thought he saw, and word traveled to the 50s. Tiny Hardhead was deeply connected to the 557s, so both hoods took this loss personally. Retaliation was guaranteed. The Jungles were shot up weekly for almost 2 months. And for good measure, the 557s and 40s also hit up 5 Deuce for a good 2 months also. The results were 3 people dead, but their main prize was still lurking around in the shadows. That's until October 3rd, 2018, shortly after 5 p.m. Nitemare was standing on the sidewalk with a couple brims in their territory. 2 people then walked up and began firing at the group, striking Nitemare and 2 others. Bodies dropped to the ground and everyone tries to flee. Nitemare was taken to a hospital where he was pronounced dead at 5:51 p.m. Rumors spread that the alleged gunman was a Rolling 40s member and a stud from 50s, and some people were shocked that it was a female shooter involved. Now that the trophy was gone, BPS responded with full force, and the 40s felt major impact in the months that followed. After Nitemare's death, he was super dissed all over social media from various hoods. Rolling 40 members even dropped diss songs mocking his death. That's a clear indication of how much of a problem he was in the streets. The top shooters usually don't last long. The common outcome is either early death or life in prison. BPS is still honoring Nitemare to this day.
RIP to Nitemare, and also RIP to all the fallen soldiers and all the fallen gang members out there in Los Angeles, man. I feel for y'all. But we're going to go ahead and end this one right here, man. Y'all go ahead and like, comment, and subscribe. Hope y'all have a blessed one. See y'all on the next video.